I've reported many times on IPP sentences, and with your help, those films have been watched millions of times. IPPs, or imprisonment for public protection sentences, to give them their full title, are one of the most shocking, cruel, inhumane, degrading and monumental injustices of the past half-century. A scandal which has already claimed the lives of 90 people serving these sentences in prison, and a further 31 that we know of in the community. It's no wonder the last Justice Secretary described them as a stain on our criminal justice system. And you would be hard-pressed to find any parliamentarian to disagree. Lord Blunkett, the Labour Home Secretary who introduced the sentences, now regrets them.
There are times in life when you put your hands up. I got my part of it wrong.
IPPs were designed to be given to serious offenders whose crimes didn't warrant a whole life sentence. The problem is IPPs were given out far more widely than initially anticipated, and in many cases they were given to people who had committed low-level crimes.
Behind these bars is a man who has been in prison for 11 years for stealing a mobile phone.
In any sensible world, spending 16 years in jail for stealing a flower pot seems ridiculous, yet it has happened here under what are called imprisonment for public protection sentences.
It's unthinkable, isn't it? And it's happening in this country right now, and many of us have been completely unaware. Perhaps not surprisingly, the UN Rapporteur for Torture has described IPP sentences as an egregious miscarriage of justice and psychological torture.
This is one of the most scandalous stories in the British justice system in a long while. The psychological effects on the individuals would amount, in my opinion, depending on an individual assessment, to psychological torture.
IPPs were rightly abolished over a decade ago on human rights grounds, but not retrospectively. So we still have almost 3,000 people serving these sentences from behind bars, and even more living in the community under constant fear of recall for minor infractions, or even mere accusations of wrongdoing.
In short, if we fail to act now, we face the collapse of the criminal justice system and a total breakdown of law and order.
Well, with our prisons on the point of collapse, almost 3,000 people serving IPP sentences from behind bars, the equivalent to the population of 4 medium-sized men's prisons, and the House of Commons Justice Select Committee having recommended a resentencing exercise overseen by a panel of experts for everyone serving these sentences as the only way to address the unique injustice caused by the IPP sentence. Surely now is the time for political leaders to take action.
IPP was scrapped in 2012, but not for people already detained. 12 years on, around 3,000 are still in jail on IPPs. Lack of action, the now Justice Secretary has criticised for years.
Well, now a fresh attempt will be made to resolve the IPP scandal once and for all in the form of a private member's bill by the Labour peer Lord Woodley, the Imprisonment for Public Protection Resentencing Bill, a bill which I am backing. I spoke to Lord Woodley about his bill earlier today. Lord Woodley, tell me why this bill is so important.
I came in here to make a difference, and justice demands when you see close to 3,000 prisoners serving indeterminate prison sentences with no likelihood of seeing any resentencing or indeed looking at their cases individually happening anytime soon. We've got a right as human beings to try and get things right, and that's why it's really important now that we force government to take action and resentence these people who've got no hope in life whatsoever at the moment.
And with the prison estate in crisis, your bill seems like a no-brainer to me.
Well, it is. I mean, at the end of the day, 3,000 prisoners, many of whom have served sentences way and beyond anything that would be fair or reasonable or even acceptable to human beings. Then it can help the prisons, but of course, let's help the individuals, their families. They've suffered far too much, and I believe it can be put to sleep pretty quickly if common sense appertains here.
I know there are going to be calls for a free vote on your bill. Why do you think that's so important?
Well, I think the important thing, it takes the politics out of it. Instead of everyone fighting to say we don't want to be seen to be weak on crime. It's not about weak on anything. It's about fair play, it's about fairness, it's about justice, it's about treating families and family members with a degree of fairness. And that's why I think a free and open vote would allow people to see the justification in what we're asking for and to do the right thing.
Thank you, Lord Woodley. If Lord Woodley's bill becomes law, it will place the Justice Secretary under a legal obligation to ensure that all those serving an IPP sentence, whether in prison or in the community, are retrospectively given a determinate sentence. For the vast majority of IPP prisoners, this will result in their swift and more than justified release. With reports suggesting there are fewer than 100 places available across the entire estate in England and Wales, it's a no-brainer. It will go some way to heading off the medium-term prison capacity crisis. And surely now is the time to completely take the politics out of this with a free vote on the bill. So let's get this done. Let's work together to end one of the most shocking, cruel, inhumane and monumental injustices of the past half-century by getting behind and supporting Lord Woodley's bill before more lives are tragically lost.